Folks, today this is kind of an interesting program because we're going to be talking about a current event that's going on in our community. We invited Hasani Lee, who is an advocate working to improve the Omaha Plantation Housing Authority and its infestation of bed bugs at the Underwood Tower and so on. We know that many of the rules that at the housing authority, I call it plantation because that's how they run it, is dramatic and oppressive at best. And I actually, at one point, lived in scattered sites, so I know how they operate and some of those draconian rules they make up as you go along. We invite Hussein to talk about his ordeal and the steps we're taking to rectify that problem. We've heard that one of their board members resigned after the heat because they might have been too great in the kitchen. The Housing and Urban Development is also involved in this situation, and that's the federal program that has oversight over public housing in the country. And they have not done much of anything to clean up this condition themselves. The Queen Mayor has authority to appoint the board members of OHA, and she's appointed people who are lackadaisia, incompetent, and so on. And many have been as quiet as a church mouse. Welcome to Throwing Down Some Heavy Light. Hussein, we'd like for you to share a little bit more about yourself because we know the Omaha Housing Authority has conditions that many of the people who are in administration will not live in. So share a little bit of information about yourself and let's get into the questions.
All right, my name is Hasani Lee. My father was a tenant with the Omaha Housing Authority, and as Mr. Jamal said, Omaha Plantation Housing, and we came out to spend some time with him in October, and we realized that he basically was living in uninhabitable living conditions, dealing with the bed bugs. No heat. He had no heat in his unit for over 3 years. Had a lot of issues with the unit that wasn't up to disabled people standards for us, where it would have been suitable for him, being a disabled veteran, to be even living in there. They didn't have the bed bugs and the heat issues. They got mold issues and roaches, mice, bed bugs. Those are the most prevalent pest issues that they have. And then they have a bunch of uninhabitable issues dealing with the heat, poor ventilation, black mold is in a lot of the units and throughout the building. So as we got out here, my main focus was to get him situated and get him out of that building and into something that was more suitable, whether it was under OHA umbrella or either somewhere else. And in the process of me doing that, I noticed that it wasn't just only his unit; it was the whole building.
So
So
let me interrupt you. I'm gonna switch up a little bit and ask you, what was it like living in the OHA senior towers? I mean, you actually lived in it yourself?
yeah, it was horrible. It was the whole time that I was there was horrible. It was constant bed bug attacks, dealing with mice, the unit smelling like a rat nest, roaches, gnats, from the mold.
And how long did you live there?
Heat
How long did you
everywhere.
live there?
I lived there from October of 2023, but my father was there for 5 years.
Okay. And so the other question I have for you, do you know what the racial makeup of your unit you were in or in general of OHA towers and places like this?
Yeah, it's a diversity in Underwood, but it's majority so-called African American is the larger tenant base. But they have a few Asian, and they have probably about, I say 30% Caucasians out there, but the bigger portion of it is African American.
Gotcha. Now, another thing, let me switch up a little because I'm going to run through. I'm going to let folks come in. But someone told me the OH management fired its maintenance staff some while back, maybe a couple of years or so, and they took the extra funds and hired one of the most racist law firms in Omaha to bust the union to get a contract for white privilege. And I say that because these are the same clowns in that busing case who was supporting school their segregation and so on. These racist law firms do not really hire African American attorneys who graduate from Creighton University or the law school of the University of Lincoln. Why are you using any of those legal means to help solve some of the issues going with this lazy management staff who won't bust a grape? And I understand the lawyer system has some financial interest in this whole thing also. But are you using any of these folks in your endeavors? Any of these legal people?
I'm not using any legal piece. I'm basically pro se. Me and my wife, we the only two been handling this case on the legal aspect and basically learning not California, Nebraska law, tenant laws and everything. So we've been just doing it, just the two of us. We reached out to Creighton at the beginning of it, and thought that maybe one of their legal aids or one of their law students would step in. And at the beginning of it, then nobody want to take part. Then nobody want to deal with the case. So we just had to barely take everything on our own.
Now, you use the term pro se. A lot of people don't always know what pro se means. What does pro se mean? And break it down for the average person who don't know what that means.
It's a Latin term, and it just basically means to represent oneself. It means if I go into court and I bring a case and I bring it in as a pro se litigant, it means that I'm not using, I don't have a legal background or a lawyer degree, or I'm not part of the bar, but I am like knowledgeable enough of the law that I can present a case and in my own self representation.
Wow. So, in other words, you self-teach yourself to how to do what you're doing now, is what you're telling us.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I know back in the day, legal aid said they were going to do more of that, but I ain't heard them bust a grape or say anything with pro se in the community. But like I say, Myrnie Haney was in charge of that probably about 8, 9, 10 years ago. She was working with different folks on that. But like I said, I haven't heard anything bubble up where our community is using pro se in some other areas. And I'm not sure what they're doing because they don't communicate well in the African American community, nor have they done community forums and so on. Now, I understand you appeared on First Guy of some months ago, and they were raising funds for you to get some legal defense. And I know they have T-shirts up there that your cause. Did you get any funds from that group?
No, I didn't receive anything from that fundraiser.
Okay. I saw, what was the name of those T-shirts? What did they say? Straight out of the towers or something like that?
It was off the Public Enemy. It was Fight the Towers. Well, though Public Enemy had Fight the Power, so they made theirs off Fight the Towers, and they they had the fundraising and everything, but I didn't receive any proceeds from any of that.
Okay, I find that funny. You use the word fight the towers. That's kind of funny in Omaha. The towers are so bad, we try to fight them to get out of them or get them to improve. What is your relationship with Paul Fallman? I know you work with him, and how useful he's been in your case. Because I know he's kind of pressed me on, give me a little insight on what you're working on. But how's your relationship with Paul?
Yeah, me and Paul got a pretty good relationship. I mean, we kind of feed off each other for like with information related to the tenants and the bed bug situation, the habitability issues that they facing out there. Paul been basically, he said he told every time he telling about it, so he'll say the reason why he's out there because of Bean. Basically, from us opening up the whole conversation, and he came in and he's been out there ever since. So I mean, he's been kind of like one of the people that was here when nobody else didn't want to come to our defense or even wanted to reach out and basically give us a handshake. Paul was out there, and he was out there the worst part of the winter, and he's still here now in the worst parts of the summer. So we got a pretty good relationship with each other.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Over 40 years, I alluded to earlier, I lived in OHA units in a scatter site. What a little backdrop is, someone broke in our apartment at 48th and Ames, and I had to get immediate housing. I ended up moving in and stayed for 2 years around 38th and 36th and Hawthorne Street. So I know a little bit how housing authority works, but I was in a scatter site. And again, Bob Armstrong at the time, them knew who I was. So they showed me a lot of love, but I do know that my experience as a middle class or semi-middle class, working class person is different from other folks. But the question I really want to ask you is, I noticed there's some corruption in OHA, and again, sometimes this has not been brought out. One of the things that I want to ask you, is there a tenant organization group at this time in OHA? Back in, they had advisory groups and they had all kinds of groups working in public housing units, but I don't know what happened. People live in towers or any of that, but do they have any groups like that now to your knowledge?
No, they don't have any groups out there. Not at Underwood Towers. I know they didn't have one because we started our own tenant. Excuse me, started our own tenant organization, and we just called it since the building is on Underwood Avenue and it was Underwood Towers. We just went with the name Underwood Tenant Group, just to give a tenants the organization that they would have that they can rely on getting work orders put in. Because that was the main focus, to be able to get them a central point or somebody that was knowledgeable enough with the process of putting in work orders or putting in complaints with the right people and everything. And since me and my wife have been putting in so many work orders and complaints from my father, I wanted to open that door for everybody. And when I looked at the Nebraska laws, it says that a landlord cannot retaliate against a tenant if they became part of a tenant organization. So I said, what would it consist of? Like, what do it take to create a tenant organization? And I looked up the laws and statutes that surrounding a tenant organization. So basically, anybody, you don't have to be a tenant of a place to put together a tenant organization. But the tenants of that building or that resident, like that just apartment building and everything, if they want to come and be members of that organization, then the landlord cannot retaliate against them for basically becoming a part of a tenant organization, especially if they're dealing with putting in complaints, putting in work orders. Because at the time that I started it, nobody was doing anything. OHA wasn't even changing light bulbs out in people's units. They got issue with people that was having no heat, no stove, no refrigerator, just a lot of things that were negligent. So I said we can help you to put in work orders. That way, if they don't answer their work order within 14 days, then we can get you to put in a complaint with the health department or with code enforcement and kind of help guide you through those situations, through those calls and the people that can help you outside of OHA maintenance not doing what they're supposed to do.
I got you.
So
I got you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go finish up, and then I'm gonna switch up another question for you.
Yeah, that basically what the reason why we started. So for us, OHA themselves having a tenant organization, no, but they got an organization that was created by me on behalf of what was going on with my father and everything.
Got you. Well, one of my concerns is I called Saul up at one point after they did a community meeting somewhere, and we had a nice conversation. I've been knowing the guy for years. I know that he hasn't done much, and I say that very seriously because I've written him letters. He hasn't responded. He's been in place, and I think he's looking at his title says Director of Resident Initiative and Public Housing Engagement. And I've been doing work in the community for almost 40, let's say at least 35, 40 years. And I've only been around the brother maybe once or twice. I'm only calling his name out because that's his job title, but I get disgusted when I call public folks or people who are on the public payroll and they don't return a call and they don't know what I'm asking about. But I wanted at some point to interview him about what OHAs do, because I know that the executive director is definitely incompetent and she has no business being in that job. And one of the issues I'm concerned with is we need to call these people out when they let the condition exist like this. And I'm surprised more people in our community are not dealing with it. But I want to ask you, how can people get involved in this struggle? Because I know it's been out there for a number of months. The media has covered this, but how can other people get involved to help reverse this dismal conditions that we let many of our elders and families live in, this draconian plantation housing?
First, they can get in touch with. We have a couple of people that's been in this community for they live here. You can get in touch with me through my tenant organization at underwoodtenantgroup.org. It's just the underwoodtenantgroup.org, and it's going to be, as soon as you get onto the page, you can see all the news clips, the interviews, and everything. We're going to build that page up that we can start giving the people that are interested in learning about tenant rights and landlord disputes, and like giving them a basis that they can start out on. But you also have advocates like Sherman Wells that's been in the community. If anybody that listen to the broadcast, if you are in any of these towers, reach out to Sherman. Paul Philman, he's out advocating everything. You can stop by. You see the green sign out by Underwood and 49th. You can stop by and get him your information. He can email it over to me or email it over to Sherman. Because what we're trying to do now, we're trying to get everybody within all the towers together so that we can bring a class action against these people for the violations and the basically the negligence that has been going on in these towers for years. It's been over 20 years that I hear.
So Hasani, I'm gonna switch up because I'm trying to get to the question where we open it up. So basically, if they want to catch up with you, they go directly through your website to catch up with you, and or else if they can catch up with Sherman, and so on and so on, and Paul. Okay?
Yeah.
So the other question I have is, many in our community are disappointed with the Nebraska Urban League, which is totally useless. That organization should be shut down. I drove by there many times. All I see is a food truck. Back in the day, the parking lots in different places would be full because they're doing meetings. And again, as I've said, if they were doing their job on some of these race issues and advocacy issues, wouldn't have some of this silliness going on. But again, when you have people who are incompetent and don't know how to read and write on a decent level, again, they can't do things and they haven't done anything. But my point is, some of these people are they're basically taking up spaces and are advocating I don't know where the NWSP is on this issue. Family Housing Advisory, I've seen them for years. I've seen them on the board for a while, and I had to get off because the bandwidth was not good enough to work with them. You got the ACLU in Lincoln, who's only focused on people in prison. They're not busting grapes on this issue. Legal Aid, I don't know what they're doing. I've tried to catch up with them, but their director must suffer from white fragility or something like that. But again, no contact with the community. So my question is, of all these entities I've talked about, have any of them helped you do anything when their job and mission is to help people deal with housing or issues related to discrimination, race, whatever else? So have any of these come to the forefront? And you alluded to it earlier, but I just want to make sure that we call them out.
No, nobody ain't come to the forefront.
None of them have done any, and all of them got staff. I mean, it's not like there's one person working there. You think there's one person looking at the cars in the parking lot. But I know years back, you used to see them sitting outside the door, smoking cigarettes, and again, they start work different hours. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. Now, someone reported to me, in terms of the housing authority and so on, this stuff. This was an open and shut case. Why is it taking so long? In other words, HUD could end it. The City of Omaha can end it. You name it. Any of these entities can call in experts who know how to get rid of insects, bed bugs, infants. Like I understand in Des Moines they have some good programs. I know New York is good with getting rid of bed bugs. But why? Help me understand why we can't figure out the technical aspects to get rid of some little bugs that pinch us and bite the snot out of us when we're sleeping. Well, is Omaha unique? Are these some bionic bugs, kind of like Ninja Turtles that we can't get rid of? Help me with that one. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, bed bugs is not. It's not the first time they infested people's homes or apartments or towers and things. But why is bed bugs a difficult issue in 2024, especially with old people who are at the twilight of their years?
It seems like they treat it like they superbugs, but I mean, if they just did the right thing, it's just from my point of view, it's negligence. They have the means. They can get the right people in them to put the heat in and take care of the situation. But they just negligent with their performance. That's the reason why it's not ended now. They're just a negligent corporation that does not take their tenants and their tenants' health seriously.
Wow. There was a guy, I don't even remember his name, but he was like the head of, I want to say Lacey or one of them. I remember he was the head of maintenance, and one of them, I'm not sure of the name, but but he was they made him the exec director at some point. It was like the fall guy. There was nobody standing in the room, and they made him, and I had a chance to visit with him, and he shared a story, which I was surprised even to this day, where they evicted an older person because the person didn't have their unit clean enough or something like that. And I'm like, we're gonna make the person homeless? Can't you find a social worker or somebody can help that person out? I think they were like hoarders. I'm not sure all the details, but like I say, I was sitting in the room as he was talking to somebody about it. He explained it to me a little bit. But is part of the bed bugs people got too many clothes or anything like that? Again, I'm not speaking on defense, but I'm just can't understand how you can't get rid of bed bugs within what 6 months or 3 months or whatever. Or do people have really bad units that are just you shouldn't live in them, like they should be condemned?
They have some units, some tenants out there that got their hoarders. I won't say that they don't. They do have some tenants out there that are hoarders, but the bed bug infestation is in the entire building. It's like the people that don't have the bed bugs in their unit is because they're spending hundreds of dollars either buying 91% alcohol or either some kind of other bed bug treatment that they're constantly being a pest control worker while living there. So the ones that don't have bed bugs in their unit is because they have expended the money and the time and the fight to keep them bed bugs out of there. But the bed bugs are throughout the building. I've seen them on the elevator, in the washroom, in the basement, in the community room. They're everywhere. And the people that are hoarding, they are it seems like the property gives them a right over everybody else's right, because from my understanding, with this being a problem like it is, you don't have so much of a say so when it's causing other people health problems, and it's basically a health hazard. So therefore, OHA is supposed to be able to legally take the upper hand in that situation to say, hey, you may be a hoarder, but we will have to come into your unit regardless to do the proper treatment for it. But they don't do that. The people say, no, I don't want you to come into my unit. And they say, okay, we can't go into the unit, and then skip over 2 more units and then spray one person unit. And that doesn't do anything to help the problem out. So they basically putting a Band-Aid on a water leak. It's just going to continue to keep on happening.
So if I heard you right, there are some residents who won't let you in their unit to get rid of bed bugs. But you know, if you live in an apartment or a complex where you're joined together, if one person has a roach down the hall, that roach knows how to travel, how roach will travel, or how bed bug will travel. You just got you saying you seen them on the elevator, so they must got some roller skates or something. But if that person doesn't do it, then you'll never get rid of the bed bugs, right? Am I right? If one person has the bed bugs in a unit and they're joined with somebody else, their bed bugs can go across to the next unit, right? Oh, I think we lost our guest. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Not sure. You got to sign back on or something. Folks, I guess at this point we're at 7:22. Let's open it up for folks who want to make comment on issue of the day, bed bugs in Omaha Plantation Housing. Are we there? Anyone there?
Looks like he's still on. It's just his mic is he has to unmute himself.
Can you unmute yourself? Hussein, I don't hear you. I don't see him. And did you see him here somewhere?
Yeah, he's in the chat. Hasani's in the chat. He has to unmute himself here. Let me see if I can unmute him.
Yeah, we've been having some technical difficulties because of the storm, and I think the electricity went out in some parts of Omaha, and so we're doing the best we can. We'll call it audible in football. We're playing it by ear. This is one of the first time we've had to use without visual. Okay, you back on? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
back on.
I
Yeah,
hear you now. What happened? Your electricity went off again, or what? The phone just went out?
it just it just no, it just went out and came back in and said the meeting was being recorded. So it ain't. I got the phone on the charger, so it's charging up. It's still charged.
Okay, got you. So we're getting ready to open it up because we thought you were going to be gone for a little bit. But anyway, before we go open it back, let everybody speak. My question back to you is: do you think this issue will ever be resolved within the next 6 months or 3 months or whatever, without all this legal agenda? Can we get the administration who's totally incompetent? All of them should be fired, including the board. You shouldn't have people who deal with this kind of crap in 2024. And again, no mercy on them. Again, when you see incompetence this bad, it just floors me. But can we get rid of them? Do you think it'll happen from a supposition point, or at least a hope or whatever, that we're gonna get rid of them in the next few months? You're saying, are you
I
there?
think it's going to be probably like you said. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
You hear you.
I think it's going to take about. I think it'll take about 6 months or more. I think if they start with the right treatment, if they do the whole building, they're gonna have to rehouse the tenants. And I know they probably not gonna do that all at one time because just Underwood got 6 floors. So if they do each floor, from the research that Paul have gathered and everything, it probably would be 3 to 4 months that they can do the whole building, and that way they'll be able to get a dog that is professionally trained to go in and locate even the eggs of a bed bug, and that way they'll have certainty that there's no bed bugs up in there. So they would have to do the proper treatment, which would be heat and get a professional team to go in. But them using their pest control and their pest team, I don't see them done. I don't see them getting it done in the next 2 years. It's just not gonna happen. They're not using the right stuff to get it taken care of.
Now I heard you mention a dog. I'm not familiar with that. You got dogs that can find a bed bug. I mean, I know they got good senses and hearing and some of that, but you got special dogs to do this stuff?
Yeah, they through the research that Paul been conducted, he found a bed bug professional team that do this basically for a living. They like the top bed bug company in basically in the state. And they got bed bug dogs that are trained just like you have the dogs that go out to find human remains, how they can find a small bone and detect that if a dead body was in a trunk of a car or something. These bed bugs are specifically trained to detect bed bugs all the way down to their eggs. So anywhere, if it's just one single bed bug egg in there, that dog can detect where that bed bug egg is at, and that way they would know that whether a unit still has eggs in it, because an egg can live up to 8 months before they even
Wow.
hatch. And you can treat it and not even know that the eggs are still, because the eggs are so small. But these dogs are highly trained dogs that they actually can locate where that bed bug egg is at to let them know whether it's still eggs there.
Well, they should fire that law firm and hire a bunch of these dogs to go and get rid of all the bugs and stuff. Because again, what good is a law firm that ain't going to bust a grape and can't find a bed bug? I mean, you know, you can it just floors my mind. They got a legal firm making that kind of money who's totally racist and useless. Again, part of the thing is I know how they've operated in the past, and again, ask how many African Americans work in their organization in the history. I'm talking about the history of these law firms, apartheid plan people. We're going to open up in 1 minute, but anything else you want to say, Hussein? Because I've kind of asked you a number of series of questions repeatedly, and I kind of like rapid fire because that's how we operate and when throwing out heavy light. But anything you want to say to before we open it up to the participants who are here to share their observations or give comments on some things that we both said?
Yeah. First off, if anybody want to catch up to what's going on, that if they haven't been able to really get all the interviews or in the storyline, go to the underwoodtenantgroup.org. And that way I have pretty much all the videos, all the news clipping, all the news reports and everything like that to kind of like catch you up. But second of all, I want to say that we, as just people living in public buildings or any kind of residential places, you had to deal with slum landlords like OAJ. Somebody got to start educating the people in a way that they can understand that it's consequences for a landlord that's a slum landlord. They have to pay the consequences. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it for nobody to say, well, you got to get a landlord to benefit, because if you're a slum landlord, we're beyond that at this point. It's only in reference to the landlords that do these kind of things and treat these tenants in this kind of way, because a lot of tenants in that building are mentally challenged, are very disabled, or they don't have the education to stand up for themselves. And OAJ is a bully. They're a bully corporation that have bullied these tenants for so long, so that you have a tenant afraid to put in a complaint or to even stand up for themselves. It shouldn't even be tolerated. That is a zero tolerance in my book. And I think that if we can get everything set up, I'm trying to set that. That's why I got the domain set up, because I actually want to get to the point that I can start doing either Patreon or some kind of videos that I can start from 101. Like when you go into high school, you take set classes from 101 up to 104. I want to start the people off at 101. I want to first let them know about putting in work orders, let them know the laws surrounding about it, how long the landlord got to respond to a work order. Then we go to step 2. Then we go to step 3, and we go to step 4, because in my book, we're building a case. If you got a slum landlord, you can't expect them to take care of the situation. You got to build a case. So at the end of everything that you do and you follow the correct steps, if that situation is still persisting about 4 to 5 months later, you will be legally savvy enough to go into court. And we will even teach you how to go into court as a pro se litigant to represent yourself. Because from what I've seen, there's no lawyers that's going to come to these people's defense. I tried to reach out myself to lawyers. I tried to talk to paralegals. I tried to talk to law students. Then nobody wants to crack an egg towards this situation until we got the momentum going that we have now, that we start putting cases against them.
It was saying we got to open it up. We're at 7:30 right now. I'm a stickler for staying on our time.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I will say I did hear you say. Did you say some of the management staff have mental issues or some issues? Because or did you say residents? I wasn't quite sure, because I sometimes
the residents
distinguish between the by the way, I did invite them through Zoom. I sent that. I think it got bounced back to somebody who was on vacation, but all the rest of them who are in their management staff got an email from me inviting them to participate. And again, when I call Sal, I call him and say, hey, let's give your version or your side of the stuff. But again, I think they might have been watching the Olympics or something like that, so I'll leave them alone. But let's throw it open to the audience out there.
Yeah.
Who else is going to say something or have some comments to make about bed bugs in the Omaha Plantation Housing Authority?
All right.
Questions, comment. Alex made a comment. A band-aid on the bullet wound, typical of the corporate greed machine. Alex, did you want to say something verbally, man, or come on and show your face? Come on. It's just, that's funny, man.
Yeah, man. I ain't got no power. Let me get outside real quick.
You ain't got no power. I told y'all we're gonna have a backup generator in this city. Our Omaha public politics, they sleep at the wheel. They make too much money. But look at how much money they pay those clowns. And you don't see them in our community. So anyway, they gotta do a better job. Again, we can't fight Mother Nature, but I just know that they gotta do a better job, because I'm disappointed with both MUD and OPD with their lack of outreach to North Omaha and South Omaha on some of these things. But Alex, I'm stealing your thunder. Go for it, bro.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, it's hot, so just pardon my appearance. The heat is on and the power's out, but we got a cool breeze. But obviously just listening. So I just wanted to just make a couple comments, like what Mr. Lee said. Like, I know somebody personally that's been living in the towers for their entire adult life. He's probably about 40 years old now. He definitely has mental challenges. He's schizophrenic, and he's been in the towers his whole adult life. He didn't have a support system really, and he just slipped through the cracks and this, that, and the third, and he ended up on SSI in the towers. So everything the man says is true, right? Everything he's reporting is 100% factual for certain. And then just as far as being a tenant, I've got I'm in a house, I got a rental property, but I got pretty much like a slum landlord. And again, he's absolutely right. Like, they bank, literally. When I say bank, I mean in all aspects of the term, financially, as well as everything else under the sun, or under the aspects or the umbrellas or auspices of that. They bank on the fact that people are uneducated. They're not going to speak up. They're not going to stand up. They don't know what to say, who to talk to, where to go. So they literally, they make a living and they send their grandkids to college off the fact that the everyman is not in the know. And what I wanted to suggest to you, Mr. Lee, which is something that I've kind of been tossing around and considering for myself, because I also don't have necessarily the education or the legal aids to pursue it that route. But you need to think about, and this is just for anybody, that's listening, because I'm telling you something I'm thinking about, and I don't mind sharing because I'm not a gatekeeper. I keep what I have by giving it away. You need to think about a consulting firm, some sort of LLC or some sort of something or other, where you have this knowledge and ability to share it. But there's something about charging money, especially in a red, corporate, greedy, pig, hog state like Nebraska. There's something about charging money that just makes people come out of the woodwork. When you're a nonprofit and you're doing it for free, you can't get people to sign up, can't get people to buy in. But when you actually have to buy in, you'd be surprised how many people want to buy in. Those white allies and so on and so forth. And I say that not to say color, but more white as in absence of any substance or relevance. When I say white, like, there's an absence of it, and that's obviously in the autobiography of Malcolm X, when they talk about black versus white in the dictionary, and they try to say black's nothing, but black's actually everything. So I say all that to say, A, you're absolutely right. I've seen it firsthand on both ends, not in the towers, but just being a tenant of a rental property and knowing someone that's been in the towers. And then B, you need to definitely look into the promotion and the marketing, but even to go so far as to say to monetize your knowledge and your ability to share.
Alex, I'm gonna cut in here because I want to make sure come back to Lee, because is there a question or comment you want to say? Take some of the advice you're giving, and maybe you guys can connect later to deal with some of the things you're suggesting.
I mean, he just dropped the information to me on the private message in the chat, and we can just go from there, really.
Okay.
But he just needs to make it. He just needs to just promote it, make it prevalent, because everything he says is true. Is basically what I wanted to say.
Appreciate it. The other thing I didn't ask, and maybe someone can answer this: what role has Douglas County Health Department played in this? Because they deal with health entities in our community. And what role has the city inspector office? Because they can condemn places or things that are not good and challenge people through their legal means. But have any of these entities who've demonstrated a level of incompetence in our community, but have any of them weighed in on any of this? Douglas County Health Department and the city inspectors who deal with rental units or housing in general in our city. Any feedback?
Yeah, I got Douglas County Health Department to come out in November. They came out and they did a report, and they found everything that I said was accurate and true. But at the same time, the OHA is considered as a political subdivision, and the health department basically cannot do nothing but give them a report that they basically telling me that they don't have to follow the guidelines of the health department. Now, the mayor even stated that on the news. She said, if you file a report with the health department, that's not going to get you any reaction or any traction on that, because they don't really govern OHA. But now the code enforcement, they do govern OHA.
Now, who's the code enforcement? I don't understand code enforcement. Is that code enforcement with the Douglas County or code enforcement with the city?
Yeah, Douglas County code enforcement.
Okay, so they can have input on this one.
Yeah, so they came out and they did inspections, but the thing is, they don't uphold. They're useless. With the heating situation, we got Douglas County code enforcement officer to come out, and he found them in violation. And 45 days later, OHA hadn't even responded back to them. I had to call him again to come out and do a follow-up inspection. He came out. It was still no heat. He gave them another 30 days. They didn't respond to that after 45 days.
Hold on. Help me understand, because what I'm trying to say is, they do an inspection, they give the citation or whatever the information to the OHA authorities, and the OHA people take vacations and don't get back to these other government officials. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, indeed. They do not. They have not got
And
back
this
to
happened
them.
twice at
Well,
least, is what you
them.
just got through saying.
That 4 times.
4 times. Okay. So they see, when I call these people incompetent, it's obvious. Okay. We won't even have that discussion. Like I say, it reminds me back in the day where if the thing was as good as they're, let them move and live in some of these units. You know, and half of them honestly don't even live in Omaha. I mean, they have no Nebraska jurisdiction. I'm throwing that out, not half, but how is it that you live so far in another state or don't even live next to some of these units, and yet you just sit back and drag your feet? But anyway, that's another story. Other feedback, other reactions from the folks who are on the line. We've been kind of quiet today. This is a volatile issue for some folks. And again, like I say, it's one of the things we as a community shouldn't be talking about in this day and age.
Mr. Lee, quick question for you. I dropped in the chat the lawsuit that was filed on behalf of, I believe, Saritha Bush, Samantha Hanson, Quintano Tapp, and Rhonda Moses, and also individuals who are similarly situated. And it's a lawsuit against the Omaha Housing Authority, and it's a class action. So I wanted to know if you were involved in that, and I also wanted to know also if you were aware of that, and if you are, maybe you can kind of give us some insight on what that is about.
I wasn't aware of that one. The only class action that I was aware of was the federal class action that they did with Kate Mahern. What is that? What are they class action in reference to?
Well, it generally references some of the issues that are going on in the housing authority. And again, this is just pretty recent. It was, I believe, filed on June 27th, 2024. And again, I just dropped it in the chat just so you can have a look at that and be able to understand that. But maybe take a look at that, and then if we've got some time to talk offline, we can. But I believe that's something that's right up your alley in terms of what you're doing at the housing authority.
Okay. My contact information is on the underwoodtenantgroup.org. You can go on there, and it got my phone number on there, and it has my email. So I definitely want to talk to you some more outside of this live that we're doing now, because I didn't know about it.
Now,
Okay.
Alex, hold on, Alex. I said you came in with something in the chat that said denied due process is what they're here to read. So, are you saying it's over, or what's going on? Or
No, I'm reading it. Like I clicked the link, so I'm reading through it now. I just started reading it a couple minutes ago. But basically, like the header, excuse me, the header of the file, you know, the filing of the lawsuit, it reads that the tenants are being denied due process, basically due to being low income, et cetera, and they're basically they're taking advantage of the tenants is what it's reading. Plaintiffs are a proposed class of residents of OHA who have very low incomes and were denied due process because of the unlawful actions and omissions of the defendant, which is OHA and Nebraska Municipal Corporation, the defendant.
Got you. That makes sense. So again, they're not even following their own rules, or they don't. And again, a lot of these racist organizations do that. Omaha Public Schools is notorious for making up rules as they go along. So again, nothing new in apartheid, Nebraska, and Omaha. Okay.
You know what I think
he's
talking about? I think he's talking about Kate Mahern's due process for giving the tenants the right to file an appeal or to file a grievance. And yeah, I think that's the one you're talking about. That's the federal class action that they got filed against OHA, and I'm glad that took place, because that's been going on for years. Also, that they have not been giving the tenants the right to file an appeal against a rent increase, or to have a grievance hearing. When they normally do a rent recertification, you have 5 days to agree with that or to disagree with it. They had to give you 30 days before they set a date on it. And when they serve you the papers or mail the papers out, they're supposed to let you know that you have 5 days to file a grievance to say whether you agree with the rent increase or not, because some people lose jobs. And my financial stability for June could be different for July. But OHA didn't care about that. They just will call people in. I have letters that they sent to my father to say, hey, you got a rent certification hearing coming up. We need you to be there. And then they give every single violation that they will take against my father if he don't show up, if he don't take this, do this, if he don't do step B, if he don't do step C. But nowhere in there do they say, Now, if you do not agree with this, you have a right to file an appeal, or you have a right to have a grievance hearing. And that's the violation that OHA have been doing to tenants for years by not giving them
And see
rights.
that points to the incompetence of the folks. One question, and I think I'm going to answer: why go to federal court? Can't you do district or some other courts? Why do you got to go to the federal government for a local issue that should be dealt with in a jurisdiction? What's going on behind that rationale or that reason?
You can do it in district court, Jamal. They definitely could have went to different district court, but I think they want to do it on the constitutionality of it as a civil violation. And civil, if you can do a civil violation, you can bring a 1983 civil rights violation. It'll be under deprivation of their rights as a under the Constitution. But if you take it to district court, you could just file a right to violation of due process. Like, you don't have to have a class action for this kind of claim. That's why I say people need to educate themselves just educate yourself on the laws surrounding these violations. But first, you got to know what violation that took place against you. That's why I want to educate the people on to get them to understand that lease contract is a binding contract. That if they violate you, you have rights as a tenant and as a citizen to go and bring a charge against them. So the people didn't know that they was getting violated with these grievance hearings or appeal hearings because OHA had that information that they withheld from them.
Hey, Hussein, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit because I don't want to get into the monologue, but I had some other comments and things come in there. Because again, we can drill into the weeds later on, but what we're trying to get is stay at the 70,000, 6,000 feet, and then we'll drill down at a later point. Quick question is there any monetary damages that you can get from OHA? Because again, it's obvious. I know they have some financial issues. They've had it for years. One of the previous directors even had the audacity when I worked at Nebraska Family Collaborative to ask if we can use a grant writer to help write their grants. And the executive director said, "What kind of organization is that's going to ask another organization to write grants for them when they have $1 million budget?" But my question is there any money involved in these litigations that people get damages or anything from that, from your vantage point?
Yeah, they have insurance. They have insurance to take care of stuff like that.
No, what I mean is, what I'm saying is, will the clients or the people residents, if they win the case, will they get money out of the system or OHA? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's basically what I was going to know. Is there other feedback coming in? Other feedback. The thing that I'm really the kind of surprised me is that the lack of this is one of those win-win cases. It's almost like a decision you can make, and you don't need a lot of gray matter of intellectual stamina or even just a cognitive process to know it's a wrong situation. But I'm just surprised at the number of bystanders who are sitting on the sideline on some of these issues. I just want to ask you, Hussein, one question that hit me is, how many hours do you put in a week on working on this case? And I assume you're doing it as a volunteer, but what kind of time have you and your spouse or whoever you're working with put on this case?
We're in the library from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m. at night, Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays and Sundays we are in there probably 6 to 8 hours. But we basically be in the library from the time they open up to the time they close. The librarians they got so familiar with us when we come into the library, we got like a ongoing joke. We said, "Well, we're clocking in."
When you say library, is it like the Omaha Public Library? Because I know they don't have a lot of Black people working down there, but they've been helpful. The Omaha Public Library, or you go to the law library? Help me with this. Which way you at?
I go to the public library, and then we go to the law library at the district county courthouse. So
and that's open to the public? Is that open to the public for free?
Yeah, the law library at the courthouse, district county courthouse, there is open to the public. You can go in and you can go through law books and everything. You can get paperwork printed out in relation to. They can't give you legal advice. That's why you have to go basically and know what you're there for and what you're looking for.
Got you. By the way, I heard, and again, I'm a lay person, and I don't know about the legal system, but a lot of stuff you get to the library, can't you access that online, or do you have to have some kind of a special law permit or number to get into some of their online stuff? Because I understand a lot of books they have and magazine stuff, you can just get it from your house or from your computer. Is there a way you can get some of that information without going into the library for those long hours?
You can Google a lot of stuff, but if you would, for us like using the Wi-Fi and being able to print things out, we like to just be right there. So whatever we had to print out, and we can utilize all the printers and everything like that. But
well, hold on. They let you use the printers free?
Oh no, you have to pay for everything.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, let me go hang out there and let me print out some legal documents and use to fight the power, because I know there's a few people I want to fight who have lack of information for our community. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So we just like to be there so we can utilize everything that we need. But a lot of stuff we would look at the night before, Google it online and everything. But if you want to get, you're not going to get a lot of legal terminology that is used in court. You will have to go to the law library to get that kind of information, because no matter how much you Google is going to only give you up to a certain percentage, only percentage of information. You can get a good understanding, but if you want to get the lawful things that will uphold you and your case law that will uphold you in court and everything and give you a case to present, that I definitely recommend going to the law library. And for the people that listen, go to the law library and look up on a landlord tenant law. That's what you want to look at. Get the landlord tenant law handbook. It's like a dictionary, and they got everything in there from you being able to invite guests in. It got negligence. It got everything up in there. So that kind of like can give you an understanding that if you want to go in, just say you go in and say, I want to understand what landlord negligence is. They got a chapter on landlord negligence that you
So
won't
we
get.
could drill into the context a little bit later. I'm gonna go back to the management and so on. If OHA, if I can, I'm gonna focus.
Yeah.
I know you got 3 African Americans. I think they're African, at least they look like it. So-called Negroes or Black folks, how you want to describe them, on the management team. And on the board, you got 2 African Americans, Danielle and Tony. And so my question is, have any of these dark-skinned people reached out to you? I suspect they even have one of them is called a resident of the units or something, because I remember back in the day they had the rules that they had to have a resident on their board. But if any of these people of color who you think would have a sympathetic voter allegiance, have they put their toes in the water and helped on this situation? Have any of them reached out? Because I know the woman who's the director, Joni, what's in poor. I wonder if she's also met with you. I'm just wondering, what are these incompetent personalities doing? Again, I have to be careful not to call them incompetence, because I may have to prove that in the court of law. But just based on what you said, even my granddaughter could win that case. But go ahead.
No one.
None of the management and none of the board members reach out to you.
No, I'll tell you, we had one person reach out to us, and that was Joni Poor, and she came with the police.
Wait. We didn't get into that. They bring in the Omaha Police Department when you're trying to deal with nonviolence, help people out. What's the police doing there? They got enough work eating donuts and biscuits and stuff. But my point is, why did they bring a police to people like you? You wouldn't carry a concealed weapon or doing something, would you?
Nope, didn't do anything legal. Only thing I was doing is filing complaints and putting in work orders. She got that when the story started hitting the news, and the news reporters started coming in and asking her the tough questions. Then she decided that her way of getting even with me and my wife was to bring the police out. They came out. She told them that we was there illegally. We had forced entry into my father's unit. We were standing
wait, hold on. My ears sometimes get filled up with wax late at night. Did I say they said you forced your way to your father's unit? Are you serious?
Yep. And that was what the police were there for. And they said, we're here. They started popping them gloves. And they said, you're going to leave here 2 ways.
Wait, hold on. I hate to interrupt you. Did you just say they popped the gun?
The gloves. They put the black gloves on.
Are you serious? The police department, this so-called friends of the community, servants of the people, put on black gloves to come to you and your wife in this nonviolent passive to help improve our community? What's the police department doing?
Yep. They said you got 2 ways. You're going to leave here willingly or unwillingly. So we had to
get the names of those officers. Did you get the name of those officers?
Yeah, I got the names of them and everything. But you know what? After we presented our case to them, they called the state attorney, and she told them that they didn't have any probable cause. They said Mr. Lee is absolutely right. What he's doing is not illegal. You guys don't have any probable cause, and I would suggest that you leave before you have a lawsuit filed against y'all. So they told Joni, they said, we're not doing anything to Mr. Lee or his wife. And if you want to do anything, you need to follow the legal steps and trying to handle this matter in the proper way. And a week after that, we had some legal paperwork that they started trying to file erroneous claims against us for the same thing that they called the police out, and the police said they didn't have no jurisdiction. So that what they didn't come out to help nobody. They fight was to get rid of me and my wife, to get us out that building and off the premises so they can borrow us and ban us from even having any kind of connection with my father. They didn't care about anything else. We was the problem, and we needed to go, and nobody never reached out. We never saw Joni before that, and we never saw Joni after that.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in her. I've never met her. I saw her talk on TV, and she didn't sound coherent enough to even hold a decent conversation on this issue. It was painful that somebody like that is allowed to be in a position as long as she's been there. Again, no one should take offense. Some people just outside their bandwidth. They don't have the skill set. They're just the Peter principle. So it's unfortunate, but I'm surprised that police were involved in this whole litigation, this whole incident. So it's unfortunate, but this is why we need to have these communications and conversations, because a lot of people in our community don't know this stuff is going on. Um, we're down to like maybe a few minutes, and I just wanted to throw out anyone from the audience want to say anything before because we got about 7 minutes left. But I want to ask Mr. Lee a couple of more questions. Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay. So if they sat down with you tomorrow and say we will resolve this, would you take them in good faith effort of OHA because they've seen the light on the way to Damascus or somewhere down at their location downtown? Do you think, if they sat down, could they negotiate and give you a timeline that they could work with you on this? Would that help resolve this horrific situation for many of the tenants, and particularly families of color and people who are low income in these units? Because I know if you had the money and you had the wherewithal, you wouldn't live with bed bugs at your side singing to you all night on your skin. But would you be open to them if they came around, or could they come around?
I think that yeah, I'll be open to them wanting to come down and have a sit down that we can try to negotiate something that to resolve the issue and everything. But you know what? They're not going to do that because I've gave them several opportunities from January up until now. I gave them over 5 opportunities to have a conversation, and they told me every time we would rather not have any kind of talk with you or any kind of communication with you. That basically was it.
Well, it reminds me of OHA said they don't want to meet with more, do stuff with us because we've said some negative things about their plantation education. But as you see, the dropout rate, I mean, the graduation rate's going down, the push out rate's there. I mean, so again, when people get defensive, they want to, go and use power, and particularly oppressive power, and then deal with the issue at the table. One of the things I was going to ask you is at some point, and I know how you guys are both working on this issue, at some point, after all these interviews, did the media come back and give you fair coverage of this? Because again, some of the stuff I'm hearing for the first time. I've seen some bits and pieces in the newspaper, but would you say our local media has given you adequate information or shared your information in the public airways in this community?
They cover the story, but as far as like really being giving adequate information and everything about what's really going on, they haven't. They gave more light to the federal class action with Kate Mahern than they gave to our situation, and we have cases against them in court right now that nobody even know that's filed in court unless we tell them. But Kate Mahern's federal class action is top face news. It's everywhere. It's all over the news. They're giving them time to sit down and discuss their approach and talk about it and everything, and they just John Chapman he came out and he did a story on it with one of the hearings that we had last in July. But other than that, we're invincible to this whole fight. We're still invincible. But Kate Mahern comes right out and file a federal class action, and it's all the way over all the newspaper. The news station is reporting them and giving them the time to sit down and say the reason why they bought the claim and everything. And it just seemed like the only issue they got is just a grievance and the right to file an appeal. That's like the running story. But you still got the bed bugs, the habitability issues, the maintenance issues, the tenants living in deplorable conditions. You still got that issue, which is a greater issue than the grievance hearing. But that grievance hearing is represented from a different set of people than the ones who are just pro se litigants who are not with a law firm and don't have a education in law and have a degree in law. So we're basically still that invisible bunch of people.
Well, and that's when we invited you on, because we know the racist media in Omaha have always been very much slanted in terms of not covering North and South Omaha in a adequate manner. And sometimes, as they say, if it bleeds, it leads. So when there's a sports figure, if it's some crime, they'll run out of here and try to get that sensational story. But when it comes to basic human interest stories of trying to improve our life, they don't have the personnel, the staff, or the competence on some of those reporters that even covered it outside of a soundbite and so on. And I know Kate back in the day when she was at Creighton Legal Clinic, and one of the things I like to remind people, even her, I asked her to get a advisory committee, and she said, "I'm her advisory committee." I said, "No, that don't work like that. I'm nobody's advisory committee." But my point is, they even have a juvenile justice legal program they started. And far I know, I don't know who's in the community who's engaging with them, because again, these people have these programs they make up, and they call themselves serving our community from a great white savior or paternalistic or some kind of a helicopter position versus working with people directly getting their day-to-day thing. We have a few minutes left, and before we get off, I just want to give you a chance, if you can or want to, Mr. Lee, to give any closing comments or comments you want to say to our audience who's been out here today. And they've been somewhat quiet today here. I know the storm has done a lot of damage to a lot of people's internet and stuff. But anyway, any comments you want to make before we close down?
Yeah, thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for giving me a platform to discuss this issue that's basically is going on and needed to be just like give everybody an opportunity to know what's going on and kind of get them an understanding of what's going on. Tomorrow, Paul is supposed to be going to the board at on Harness Street at OAJ to have be a part of the committee board meeting that they're supposed to be having tomorrow morning at 8:30. And they're gonna have some people that's gonna talk about the bed bug situation and their experience with the bed bug situation and everything. So I encourage anybody, if you have the time, to go out to OAJ's main office on Harness Street and be a part of that conversation. You get 3 minutes to talk. If you don't want to talk, just go and listen, kind of like get an understanding of what's going on. But I would also like to let everybody know that we're working on something that we can start bringing the people that are interested in learning and educating themselves on landlord-tenant law and everything. And I agree with the guy that said to start charging for it, because everything that I've done for free, it seems like everybody will run from you when you say, hey, I got free information. But as soon as when somebody say, hey, I'm going to charge you for the information, then they come and they have a whole different approach to it to say, hey, let me buy into it. So that's something that I'm going to definitely consider really, really hard within the next couple of days. But my domain that we have going now that they can kind of like catch up on the storyline is underwoodtenantgroup.org. And you go on down and you're going to be able to kind of like catch up with the news clippings, the stories, and everything like that. We have a link on there that if anybody want to donate to the cause, you can donate to the cause and everything. And if you just want to get it caught up on the story, that's fine too. So thanks again for having me here. Thanks again for like opening this door for me, because any information I can give out, like my boy said, I ain't the gatekeeper that holds everything in. I open gates by letting it all out. And I like that whole saying that he said. So I'm appreciative of it.
Good, appreciate you being here. Before we close out, just want to make a couple of announcements. Number one, we're gonna have some shows coming up next week and the following week, but we're looking at having Dr. Imani talk about some of the issues, the state of Black studies and African Americans in our society as well as locally. So he's coming up on the 7th, so that's one of our agendas. And then we're also going to have Suzanne, who one of our previous guests, talk about some of her experiences related to the school system and things like that. And then we're also going to do one on breast cancer, talk about the issue of cancer. There was a young man who died at the age of 53. Many people know him over in Bellevue. And again, one of the things we suspect that happens is there's not enough information coming from the medical community or the public health community about prevention of cancer. And we're going to talk about breast cancer, but we think it's related to all cancers. We need to do that, particularly aiming at African Americans and people of color who have a higher death rate of morbidity, as they say, with these cancers in our community. And again, many factors, but we need to do that. Then we also know that they need to be, some families need to be more involved in studies. They call it trial studies to find out how effective drugs are. So we're going to talk a little bit about that on the 21st. And then, of course, one of our final closeout for August, we want to have one of our board members talk about issues related to the police department on the 28th. And we'll talk more about, how do we get people to deal with the budgets. We see the mayor's talking about increasing the police budget and building a new precinct or some kind of a station downtown with the fire and the police department together. Again, with the crime rate going down, the present chiefs say the numbers are going down. So why do we need more police officers, need another building when our money is funny as a state and as a community? So we hope you join us as we go forward, and we're right up on our closing here. We started a little bit late, but really appreciate you coming in today, Mr. Lee, and hopefully we can get a chance to bring you back to talk more about this. And on that note, as we always say, may the force be with you. Baroko.